Hello, hello. This is Adelai Brown, your heart coach, and I want to welcome you to the Heartline with Adelai Brown. This is our space for us to come from all over the globe and grow heart equity. What is heart equity? Personal, relational, and financial wealth that we cultivate through authentic living. And it's a big deal. We living in tough times, and let's just be honest, we really can't afford to be fake. The faking it until you making it is no longer working. And it's time for us to embrace who God created us to be. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here doing the Heartline with Adelaide Brown. Every Thursday, you can expect a new show. And this week, I am so excited to have my dear friend, my work mother, as a guest on the show today. She's a mother, a grandmother, a Mimi, excuse me. She's an entrepreneur. But most of all, she is a beautiful queen who is focused on growing heart equity in her life and her mission. And I'm so excited to have her here today. I'm excited for our conversation. So welcome, 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 Lori. How you doing?
I am absolutely awesome and amazing. I am so excited to be back here with you in this space again. Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart, so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for accepting the invitation. And just let the people
You're
know who
welcome.
you are. Introduce yourself a little bit more. I knew I couldn't do much justice to who you are. I wanted you to get the chance to introduce yourself.
Oh, you did just fine. Well, I'll go ahead and take it from here. As they say, the biography, right? So I am Lori Johnson, also affectionately known as LJ. I've been on radio here in the Charleston market now for about 23 years. And I am really, as you said, I am a mother of three and a grandmother of five. And I am just really enjoying the stages of motherhood and being a grandmother too. And I am what's known as a serial entrepreneur. I also have a background in acting. I've done some stage plays with Charleston Stage Company. I've done some commercials in the area. I'm from Brooklyn, New York originally. I am really happy and proud of that. I believe that gave me a foundation to replant myself here in the Carolinas. I have been here now more than 43 years, I think. So
Oh,
in the
wow.
Gullah community, we would say I'm a probably a Kumya, but I feel like I'm a Ben Kumya.
Yes, yes, you
You know,
definitely are that.
yes, yes. So, with all of that, there have been some exciting times. There have been a roller coaster ride of different things that have happened while I've been here in South Carolina, as well as in New York. So, I truly believe the combination of those things have brought me here where I am today. And again, I'm just really grateful to be here to have been asked by you to come on the show and share however it is spirit leads today. So we're doing that.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we're so glad to have you. And really, you and I, we always have really good conversations. And I mean,
Mhm.
we connected back in 2018 when we were both, I mean, we connected prior to this, but I feel like we really made our connection when we were hosting our morning and midday radio shows on Kinetic Hi-Fi. Shout out to
High five, shout
Ramsey,
out.
yeah, shout out to Ramsey Lewis and everybody over there. But it was
Yes.
really a blessed time. I can say
Mhm.
working in the radio with you, you would come in at 6 in the morning, 6 to 10, and I would do 10 to 2 or 10 to 3. I can't remember
Yes.
exactly what it was. Um,
Mhm.
but it really was a blessed time. And I think that one of the things that we made the most connections on were we were both in a space where we were growing. I
Mhm.
had at that time all the children were still home. Akaris was in high school. I think she was like in 10th or 11th grade. And how they say life be life and life was life and I feel like we made a connection because we both acknowledged that we were empathetic. We were feelers, right? Like,
Mhm.
um, we both acknowledge that we live in a world where it's almost like people are always kind of barreling through, acting like a bull in a china shop. But we
Mhm.
found that both of us were really attentive to people's tone, body language, the energy
Yes.
in the room. And
Mhm.
so I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about growing heart equity and just how how do you navigate the world? How do you operate from an authentic space? Do you have challenges with that, or is that easy for you? Just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that because I do believe we're living in times that require us to no longer be fake, right? It
Mm.
requires us to no longer act like we're okay when we're not. It's like the acting is up. You mentioned how you've done acting, you're an actor yourself, but
Mhm.
there comes a time when you have to, the script comes to an end and it's time to go back to who you really are. So just wanted to talk a little bit about that, or you could jump in however.
I'm glad you took me back to our very first beginnings because it was a time of really big transformation. I say transformation, transition, all of those pivots, all of those words were coming into play because I was at the time had reconciled my relationship with my dad. He and I did not really have a good relationship coming up. I always would say that I was an accident. I used to say I was an accident that he and my mother didn't plan to have me. Um, read between the lines there. But I never had a close relationship with my father. And when you and I came together, I was at a crossroad because, he was elderly at the time and he was being faced with dementia. He had some early onset dementia. He was leaving his house and, in various stages of undress because his wife had passed some years ago. And so he was living alone at night. And, one of my cousins came in and stayed. And for whatever reason, the situation didn't work out. So it presented an opportunity for me to decide whether I was going to use that, maybe the fact that we did not have a good relationship to not be responsible for feeling that I wanted to take that opportunity to be a caretaker and to operate in that manner. He had a caretaker in the day, but it was at night that it presented the most challenges. So I agreed to move in with him, even though he and I did not have the best of relationships. As a matter of fact, I'll just be real honest. Growing up, he would say to me sometimes, "Oh my God, every time I see you, you always need something." And you know what? He was right.
Mm.
Because I was a single parent growing up. And yeah, there were situations and times where I was really on a financial roller coaster. There was a lot going on. I had low self-esteem. I was really struggling with depression. More on that later. Just so many things were going on in my life,
But
marriages,
why wouldn't
as
you
a matter of
need
fact,
your
right there.
daddy? That wasn't fair though. Just to kind of
Exactly.
jump in right
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
like for me, of course
yeah.
I
I
need
needed him.
something from you, dude. You my daddy. Yeah, I need something.
You my
I
daddy.
need it. But you see
I
how
like
you
that.
have to, you see how you've had to kind of protect yourself with like an explanation why. I don't need a reason
Mm-hmm,
why to
mm-hmm,
need my daddy. I need my daddy.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But
I need my daddy.
that's the conditioning that we go through. I apologize. Go ahead. I just when I hear
No, no,
that,
no, no,
it's
no.
like,
That's a good. It's a yeah, yeah. No,
it's
that's what
like
we
because
do.
I
You know how
feel
we
like a
roll.
lot of people listening, that's really the purpose of the Heartline. It's a place for your heart to really be able to speak, right? Because a lot of people listening, we do that. We make up excuses to explain away the pain, to explain away the embarrassment, the rejection, the abandonment, the confusion, right? And because we love people, sometimes we think,
Mhm.
well, if I love them, I can't acknowledge how bad that hurt. No, we can hold the tension with those things. And that's just something hearing you talk about that, regardless if you were a mistake with my air quotes, because I too am a mistake type of child, right? But we're not. So, but regardless if you came from a planned or unplanned situation, there is still a responsibility. Because the truth of the matter is, your father made a decision. that could have caused him to have a child, and he did. So it wasn't your fault, though they will make us feel that way sometimes. But that
Mm-hmm.
just goes
Mm-hmm.
back to
Yeah.
a lack
Yeah.
of accountability. And that's
Yes.
something that
Yes.
we are really missing in our society right now. Everybody's hurting, so we want to blame somebody else. But we really got to be
Mm.
accountable for our actions and
Yes.
the byproducts of those actions, the produce
Mm-hmm.
of those actions, the fruit of those actions.
The fruit consequences of
Come
those
on now. I
actions.
would, and yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't even know you not a consequence.
Exactly,
You feel me?
and but that was part of my limiting belief system that I built up over the years, from a child, when I first found out that he wasn't my father, was I was what 12 or 13 years old. So, stories for another day, believing that someone else was my dad and then coming to find out that he was. And so now here I am feeling like I've got to play catch up to develop a relationship with you, and then you don't want a relationship with me. And so and then it created
Mm.
a lot of confusion within my life. I'll just put it like that. And I know, unfortunately, for real, there's a lot of people out here that have the same story. But I think
Yeah.
that what it is that we need to be honest about is, like you said, the consequences of our choices. A lot of times we hear stories. I remember Kirk Franklin recently, him coming out with that story with his father. Did you see that? How powerful that
Yes.
was?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
I
honey,
wanted
that
to
thing
have
had
a
me in a
session with
chokehold.
Kirk. Yeah, I
I
wanted to
bet you
have a
did.
session with him because I just
Mhm.
I just felt like, and oh gosh, so many emotions. Go ahead. I'm listening. I'm trying so hard. You know how we go.
So
I'm
many
listening.
it took me there too. It's okay. I'm with you. This We're gonna breathe, take a deep breath. Because, honey, let me tell you, that thing stirred up so much in me. And it really, really, and I interviewed Kirk Franklin one year in my radio career. And I remember liking him because he was so real about, he didn't grow up listening to gospel music. So that's why because I think that his gospel music, I don't want to go off too far, but I think his gospel music kind of got me off the off rough side of the mountain kind of thing, because he was the
Yeah.
first gospel singer. They was playing his music in the club,
Yeah.
stomp.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a whole different story. But when he came out with that, and he had already been vulnerable when he talked about his problem with addiction, pornography addiction. He had
Yeah.
already been transparent in that way. So, but for him to be transparent with his dad, his own relationship, his own situation with his dad, that thing was
Yeah.
so powerful. Oh my God. So anyway, so for those who may not know the full Kirk Franklin story with his dad, you can go research it, I'm sure. But anyway, all of that stuff, I was dealing with all of that stuff. How I first met my first father, who I thought was my father, and I didn't get the reception that I thought I would, because I thought he should be happy to see me after all these years. You've not met your daughter yet, and this is how you greet me. It was a little bit, very formal. Hi, my name is, and that I thought that, wow, you should be excited to see me. I'm your little girl. You haven't seen me. You've never met me. But he was my brother's father. So since he
Mm.
was my brother's father, and I didn't get the same type of reception, then now I guess that's when my mother felt, well, this may be time for me to tell her that no, he's not your dad. And so I can remember the flood of emotions when I went in the room and I closed the door, because I felt rejected. Quite
Yeah.
frankly, I felt rejected. And I thought, well, what did I do to him?
Yeah.
And so when I was in there, my mom came in and she says, well, I guess I have something to tell you, that he is not your father. You could have just hit me like with a ton of bricks. And then with no, this is not being mean to my mom. My mom looked at me and she said, and don't look at me like that. And I thought immediately her guilt, her shame
Absolutely.
now was coming through to me, projecting onto
Absolutely.
me. And now you felt
Absolutely.
like I was looking at you in some type of a judgmental
I
way.
am. I
Yeah,
am. I
yeah, yeah.
am. How about that?
Mhm.
I am.
Yeah, yeah. And I am looking at you in a judgmental
Yeah,
type
because
of
you
way.
tell me not to go out here and be fast. You tell me not to go and do these things, but I find out you can't hide something you've done and you've lied. Because even if
Mhm.
you didn't tell me my brother father was my dad, you didn't tell me he wasn't. You were
That's
just
right.
waiting to see how he responded. So now you
Mhm.
really caught up and you mad at me because you got to tell the truth?
Wow, Addie. You see, and that is the very thing about you that is what connected us initially. Because I was angry at my mom. I resented my mom, but I never wanted to face that fact and be honest with myself. See, I was hiding. I was lying to myself that I didn't like my mother. And even when I heard myself say that for the first time, I thought, oh, that sounds so awful. How could I say I don't like my mother? I think I heard you say it. That's what it was. I
Mhm.
think I heard in a session you were saying something like that, and it was resonating with me so very loudly that I had to hang up. I disconnected. I don't remember if it was a Zoom or if
Probably
it was a
heart talk.
call.
It
It was
probably
heart
was
talk. It
heart
was a
talk.
heart talk.
It was
And
a
you,
heart
when
talk.
you said that and we talked about it, it just made me confront my anger towards my mother. And I
Hmm.
kept saying to myself, but I can't be that angry with her because she's my mother. Why
Hmm.
I can't be like, I can't, how do I express this in a healthy way? How do I deal with this? I never dealt with the fact that I would see people always so happy with their mothers. They're out to lunch with their mothers. They're shopping with their mothers. So excited about being with their mothers and no, they can't wait to go get to see their mothers. And I didn't have a hostility toward my mother, but I didn't have that kind of a daughter mother relationship that I saw other women
Connection.
having. I
You
didn't have that
didn't feel the
connection.
connection. Your mother was
I
not.
didn't feel it.
This is the language I have for this now. Your mother was not emotionally available to you, and you're an emotionally expressive person.
Very,
So it
very sensitive.
already was
Mhm,
rejection from a child.
mhm.
That's a part of why I believe you were so expectant of your thought of father to give you now this attention. And it took you back because you were like, hold up, I'm not getting it from her. Maybe he's gonna give it to me. And you like, oh no, he don't have it for me. Maybe I
Mm.
don't deserve it.
And
Maybe
that's
I don't
shame.
deserve it. And that's shame. And I
That's
feel like
shame.
and I
That's
feel like
shame.
that's something
Mhm.
you may have been carrying for a while. And it's not to dig up the past, but you see, like we're just having a natural conversation and this is what comes up. And I believe if it comes up, it needs to come out. Because what'll happen is you
Mhm.
will find yourself in everyday situations, but being reminded, this reminded me of when she rejected me. This reminded me of the deficit that I'm still dealing with.
Because you're still in a constant, whether it's in your personal life with a significant other, now in your business life, in your career, with your coworkers. Now you're always constantly feeling like you have to prove that you deserve, that you are worthy, as my business partner would say. Now you have to prove it. You have to go above and beyond to prove your value. Make people see how valuable you are. Make people see how you can add to their life. Make people see how, oh, I'm really a good, you really want to be with me because I'm very good. I'm really good at what I do. I can help you with this, I can help you do that. And now you're putting yourself in all of these situations. You're just twisting yourself into all kinds of pretzels, trying to make people like you and just to make people accept you and to make people agree with you and to make people no, you're agreeing with other people and you are not even being true to yourself because you know that some of those things don't even align with you and what your spirituality and your values are, but you trying to contort yourself to accept that. I have come to the place now where I am no longer judgmental. And I know we're shifting
Mm.
a little bit here, but
No,
you're saying
we're
it's so
good.
true because this is what it is. You're now in this constant cycle of trying to prove your value and your worth. And unless and until we as women, especially, but men have it too, but especially
We
because we're
do.
women, we're going to deal with our sisters first because we have to realize, first and foremost, unless you stop pretending that it's not your story, that you're not disliking your mom, that you're not disliking your dad or disliking your baby's father, and you don't want to see him move on with his life with his new wife and his new family. And you create all kinds of situations, stories for another time. So now, unless and until you really face yourself and look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm really hard to deal with. You know what? And you got to go deep. Later, axe to the root. I think that's what the Bible says. You have to go deep, and that's what I had to do. I had to go deep, lay that axe to the root, and you helped me with that to deal with my heart and to understand in a way that was healthy for both me and my mom, that we could
Yeah.
get through this,
Yeah.
that we can. And I had to confront her. I had to come clean with her. And I'll never forget the conversation that I had with her when I finally was able to get the strength to confront her and to say this, and she apologized. And sometimes I
Oh,
think that's all we need is to
that's all
hear.
you needed.
That's all we needed to hear. And I go back to my daddy when I moved in with him. He was almost 90 years old. And I said to him one day, I said, when we were in the house, and I said to him, I said, because I even had to ask him if it was okay for me to call him daddy. And he said, well, that's who I am. I said, well, I never called you that. I used to call you Scotty, like my mother called you. I never called you daddy. And so in that moment, when I said that to him, I says, can I call you daddy? He says, well, that's what I am. And I said, I never called you daddy. So that's why I felt awkward. And if you will let me, and he was like, of course you can call me daddy. So I said, well, daddy, whatever I said. I said, every time I used to come to you throughout the years, now he's almost 90, and here I am, like what, in my 50s. And I said to him, I said, every time I would come to you to reach out to you to try and develop a relationship with you, you always treated me like I was a pain in your ass. I
You
want to be
can use
nice.
it.
And
You
he
can use
said,
it. This you
I
can
can
use
say
it.
it.
Yes, you
I told him,
can.
I said, you always treated me like that. And I did not like being treated like I was a pain in your ass. And he laughed. And I said, it's not funny. I just stopped him just like that. I said, it's not funny. I'm not laughing. And he looked at me and he realized that I was deadly serious.
Yeah.
And he, in that moment, hung his head and said, I'm sorry.
Oh,
He did too. So and God gave him 6 months to live.
oh,
And I
Jesus.
moved in, and you were over there. You visited us over there too. I moved in and I was able to have 6 beautiful months with him. We bonded, and I felt like I really connected with him in that 6 months the way I would have wanted to connect with him all my life had he been there from the day I was born.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we didn't have that, I didn't, I no longer dwell on that. But I'll cherish the 6 months that I moved in with him. I was hit there for him. And we just had some
Y'all did.
major bonding moments, some major times. He
Y'all
was
have
like,
fun.
he would sit in the mirror, he would sit in the window, and he would be excited when I come home. He'd
Yep.
smile, and girl, that thing would just grip my heart to see him happy and light up when I would come home. And oh my God. And I felt like his princess because I used to say that when I was growing up, that I should have been my daddy's princess. Not, I used to say that when I was a young girl, right? And I got a story about that being known as the Gullah Princess. That's my brand now. But I got a story, a real deep story I'll share at some other time. But I always often said I should have been my daddy's princess. And so it was in that 6 months that I tell you what, we made up for lost time. We really made up for lost time. And it was just a treasure. It was just an experience that I'm so grateful. I miss him, but I know he's with me in spirit. I
Yeah.
know that he celebrates me and he encourages me in my little mixy entrepreneurial way and and I'm just grateful. So saying all that to say, we as women, as men, we are worthy. That's part of a movement I'm on, and I'll share that later on. I am worthy, the movement. And I am so very grateful to God to be where I am today because I feel free. I
Mm-hmm.
feel free. And I just feel so excited about life. I feel so excited about living. It's a place where I never thought it was a peace that surpasses all understanding, like the Bible says. It's a peace that I feel alive. And when you're free of people and what people think of you, you really can now find and navigate your way and build on that more closely. So I'll just kind of bring this plane in for a landing,
No,
as another
you're
friend of mine would
good.
say, and
You're
allow you to go
good.
ahead and interject, because this is really a time of, now when we see what we see going on in life, it's time for you to now focus on yourself. Stop worrying about what's going on in the White House. I'm really disappointed in the things that are going on in the world too, but at the same time, to just focus everything, all of my energy on that, I would not be able to develop the light and to continue in the light in the way that God would have me to go, to be able to be a light to other people. And that's what is now is more important. We have to be able to give people permission to be light. And if you want to be the light, right? If you want to be the change that you want to see, like Dr. Joy DeGruy would say, if you want to be the change that you want people to see, you've got to do the inner work first. Iyanla Vanzant says you've got to do it's the dark night of the soul. We call it the dark night of the soul. And those nights might be long. Those nights may take a long time to get through and discover. And you might have some times and some moments when people don't want to be around you. You don't want to be around people, but your solitude is powerful. There is a power in solitude. Okay. I don't like being lonely, but I love being alone. I love being with myself. I love celebrating the nature, being in touch with, just grounding. I like taking my shoes off and walking in the dirt. Didn't we do that when we were kids? It's like we just had such a
I
carefree.
still do it.
You still do it? I
Yes, I
do.
do.
I walk around barefoot outside. I'm not worrying about my pedicure and stuff like that. I can get
Kevin
another
just
one.
teased me about my foot being dirty. I said, I don't care. I was walking outside. I don't
Kevin say your
care
feet
now.
dirty.
He said, your foot look like
Got
one of
today.
them. You know when the little baby's foot be dirty when they be babies and you
I
look at
see.
their foot.
Yeah.
I was outside walking and it was so funny. But you're right. You're right.
But
Got
you
to get
feel
back
good.
to it.
You draw an energy from
Yeah.
the earth. There's life in this earth. There's a vibration and an energy in nature that we just overlook. I was driving, and the canopy, trees create a canopy on one side of the road to the other side of the road. Do you ever wonder why they reach out to each other and they create a canopy? Instead
Mm-hmm.
of growing straight up, they reach over
Mm-hmm.
and they create such a beautiful canopy.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Life, energy,
Mm-hmm.
living, vibration.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about. And so when we did that as kids, we didn't know. We were so happy. We were enjoying each other. Some of us was eating dirt. We was making pancakes out of dirt with mud and water and stuff like that and stuff. We
Yep.
was crazy, but
All
none
of
of
it.
that stuff ain't kill us.
No. It
We
was
was in the
fun.
rainwater.
We were
It was
taught.
fun.
It was nothing wrong with it. It was healthy. It was
It
good.
was, yeah, it was
It
good.
was
It
good.
was
It
the
was the
good of the
earth.
earth. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, girl. Yeah, so I'm just really enjoying today, just sharing with you, because it's really bringing us back to who we are. Yes, we're upset. Yes, people have been losing jobs. We're upset about these things. We're concerned about it, but we at the same time we have to come alongside one another. And everybody is not your tribe. I know you often talk about this too. Not everybody is your tribe, but you have to really find who you really resonate with. I know that some women, when we are in various stages of our growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
We might be a little prickly. We
Mm-hmm.
might still be in those stages of growth, and you might need to just be able to just drop something on somebody and just keep it moving. You might have to show a little bit more love. You might just have to show a little bit more patience. A friend of mine says you might need to show somebody a little more grace, give them a little more grace,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that when you're in your intimate times, you have those people that you spend the most quality time with because they charge your batteries, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if people are in their degrees or in their different levels of adjustment and growth and things, there's the girlfriend that is constantly talking about the one that's doing her wrong, years and years and years and years. And you've been lovingly trying to work through that thing with that girlfriend of yours. You've been lovingly there for her. You've been the shoulder that's she's crying on, and
Mm-hmm.
years and years and years. But there comes a time, coach, heart coach, right? There comes a
Yeah.
time when you may need to be like, what is it? A little tough love. It's like the dog they say that's on a nail. The dog is whining on the nail. Oh, the dog is in pain. And somebody said, well, why is that dog whining like he is? Well, there's a nail right there that he's laying on. And somebody said, well, why don't he just get up off the nail?
Get up off the nail.
So I'll let you take it from there, sis.
No, I think that's a very valid point. And I think I'm gonna go back to what you just to kind of go off a little bit of your story. I think that when when my mom felt like a nail and my dad felt like a nail, maybe I think that pain is a part of what I'm supposed to have. Maybe I think this is the life I'm supposed to live. And I think a lot of people
Mm,
get stuck in
mm,
that cycle. It might
mm,
be
mm,
familiar, it does not mean it's good for you. And for those of us who may have had parents who were not emotionally available, mentally, physically available, um, then I think, and it's not just about parents' upbringing, just your formidable years and how you learned to receive and give love, um, or the lack thereof. I think that really impacts how we go into every other relationship. It's like when you hear people talk
mhm.
about, you hear people say, it's like you're dating the same person. They got a different name, a different social security
Mhm.
number, but the same person keeps coming into your life. It's because that's what you're attracting. But you're
Yes, yes.
attracting it because that's what's familiar.
It feels
That
comfortable, feels
that
familiar.
allows you to
Mm,
continue to be the way you are. This person, this person, though their relationship might be uncomfortable, they don't force me to change.
mm,
Or I might get uncomfortable enough that I might change. But a lot of times we continue the patterns we're used to.
mhm, mhm,
Right? If you didn't grow up in an environment where you saw your mother having a healthy relationship with men or with her friends or your relationship with her, so that right there can cause a problem. I realized
yeah.
for me, because my mother was not emotionally safe all the time, that I
Mhm.
had this inherent distrust for a lot of people, including myself.
That's good.
But science shows that how you view the world, your relationship with your mother determines how you view the world. Your relationship with your father determines how you view God and his sovereignty. So if you had a daddy
Mm.
that was abusive, then you will see God as an abusive God. God don't seem safe all the time. If you
Right.
had a
He gonna send
father,
me to hell.
there you go. He gonna send me to hell. He mad at me all the time. I'm always gonna I'm
Mm.
everything I do, I'm going to hell. Right? And that's not
Right.
God. But if your
That ain't
father
God.
was critical like that, or you
Hmm.
grew up in an environment where the masculine influence was critical or not there, and people wonder why. And it's not about you do that's why when people go to therapy or get coaching or get in these environments like a life support group like Heart Talk, things come up that they forgot about. Things come up that
Hmm.
um it's like, wow, I forgot this happened, or I didn't even remember that, or whatever, because
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
find yourself in a safe space.
Mm.
We don't realize how much, when you talked earlier about we need to give people permission, we don't realize how limited we live our lives until we actually start to experience freedom,
Yes, that's good. That's good, Eddie. Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
And so it's like, this is all necessary. We have to have these conversations because um it was something else that you said, and all of this goes together, but it's this whole idea of nobody's going to come and save us, but there are already people there willing to support and help and love me, but I have to value myself enough to be open to receive that. I have
Yes.
to value myself enough to
Mhm.
not not overwhelm um what I know to be true for me by your opinion because I want you to like me or love me or accept me. I don't need to limit myself, my bound and forego my boundaries so that you could love me or be a part of my life. And
Yes,
all that goes back
that's
to you
good.
talking about tribe. I'm just kind of like, just like listening to you, and I'm like, it's so many of us are dealing with just so many things, and I feel like these conversations need to be had more from an
Mhm,
authentic
mhm,
space. I know for me, when I do hear people having these conversations, what what I do also notice is it's I can hear the armor a lot of times. Even people who are doing their work, it's like a hardness. But healing requires you to soften. Healing requires you to rest. And for many of us, that's rest for our soul, rest for our mind. I tell
mhm.
people all the time, I say, "Are you resting?" They'll say, "I'm resting." I said, "No, I know you're sitting still, but are you resting?"
Well, that's good, Addie. Come on now.
Because
That's
your
real good.
your brain is still going. You constantly, did I get that right? Did I do this? Did I call that person back? Did I follow up? Am I getting this right? Oh man, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I don't have this. I don't. It's like the more you embrace yourself, the more you can cut those thoughts off.
Mhm.
The more you embrace yourself, the more you can slow that down. Like you can be a serial entrepreneur, but it doesn't mean that you feel mixy, unless mixy is how you want to feel. Because
That's
like
good.
y'all, those listening as not Geechee, then if somebody call you mixy, that could be a good or bad. They could be complimenting you or throwing some shade. You just don't
Throwing
know.
some shade.
You
Hmm.
just don't know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He's so mixy,
It's so mixy. Every time you look, he's doing something different.
doing
Oh, what are you
something.
doing now?
He doing
Yeah,
something
God.
every time. What you
Every
got
time
going
you
on
look.
now?
Hey.
But the thing about that is, it really don't matter unless you believe it.
Mm,
It really doesn't matter. It won't have a sting unless it's something in you that relates to what they're saying. And that's all a part of self love. That's all a part of self acceptance. That's why, like, and when we connected, I was writing and finishing Help Save Me from My Broken Heart, Your Journey to
mhm,
Living and Loving Again.
mhm,
And especially since losing mommy, those 6 steps, I heard God like tell me those steps aren't fake or phony. Those steps are real. And I'm saying that because when we really say, I want to be who you created me to be.
mhm,
And from that being, I'll do. I think a lot of times we're trying to do so that we can become. And we have it wrong. It's back to what you were saying about the energy from the earth. The energy from the earth is always the ion, is always in the atmosphere, but a lot of
mm.
times we can't receive it because we moving too fast and we too
Moving too
mixy.
fast.
In that
Mixy.
case, we too mixy,
Okay.
right?
Slow down.
Slow
Slow down.
down. Slow
Right, right.
down.
Mhm.
It's like
Unplug.
being thirsty. It's like
Ooh,
you're running because you're thirsty, but you don't slow down enough to drink and
to
wonder
get
why you
something to
can
drink.
never quench the thirst.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good, Addie. And just going back to the observation of our foreparents, I think that there is also a generational trauma that has come down as well that we
Absolutely.
still have in our DNA and our genes as well. Something that we are not probably even aware of unless we really talk about that. Because our ancestors, they dealt with some horrific conditions, some dreadful times, and sometimes some of the things and some of the choices they may have had to make may not have been what we might consider the best, but at the time they may have been what was best then. So our parents, my mother's 88 next month, and so I have to give her grace too, because I
Yes.
realize, as you said, we are what we live. There was a poem back in the day, back in the 70s in Brooklyn, the environment, you touched on the environment about how children live. You
Mm-hmm.
are what you live. If you
Mm-hmm.
live in a toxic household, that's not always the case, because didn't Sly Stone say, one child grows up to be somebody that loves to learn. Another child grows up to be somebody you'd love to burn. So so it's not always, these are not like hard and fast rules that your environment is going to make you what you are, but it does have an effect on you, because that child that is the achiever, overachiever. Maybe that's the learner. Now they've received all kinds of accolades in college. Now they've got the degrees. Now they go through work and they're just the achiever, the achiever. But that trauma of that household, right? That they have always now they've got to prove themselves. So there's an imbalance. There becomes this disharmony, right? This
Mm-hmm.
imbalance because they're the overachiever, but now the other one, we can't throw them away
Mm-hmm.
because they just have not gotten the tools that they need in order to deal with the trauma of the environment they grew up in. So we can't throw them. We both of them gonna have some stuff, and we're
Both
dealing.
of them have stuff. It's
Yeah.
just we live in a society that chooses some stuff over the other.
Mm.
Like it all stink, but people just choose one scent over the other.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
It's
And,
all
and
stink.
it's all stink, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One
I
is just
like
more
that.
tolerable than the other in the environment and the culture that we live in. We are much better receptive to a high achieving idiot than we are to a genius who may have chosen to be homeless.
Come on. Isn't that something? And didn't we just see that in the example of the what was her name? The young lady in Vogue that she says, I'm not homeless. I chose this is the life I've chosen. She's living in her car, that young
Hmm.
lady that was the singer within Vogue. And but
Oh,
there are
okay. I don't know
cases of
about that story.
yeah,
But yeah, people doing
yeah,
it. A
that
lot of
I
people.
won't get too deep in it, but some people like that because of the freedom it gives them. But we think, oh, everybody immediately thought we should feel sorry for her because she's homeless, she doesn't have money. No, she said, no, I'm good. But in the case of the homeless, still homeless people who are on that genius, you're absolutely right. That exists as well. The brilliant person or who has the capacity to be brilliant and to come through that, to get through that. They've got the fortitude in them to want to come through that. They know they're picking through the garbage. Dr. Venus Opal Reese, for example, she's got that story. Multimillionaire, she ended up being a multimillionaire, but her beginning was laying and sleeping in the street, eating out of garbage cans, and just having that life, going through addictions, having all of the traumas that you can name. You name it, she went through it. So for her to be able to get through that, it's possible. And this is the
Mhm.
light that we want women to see, that you can come through that, but you've got to be able to, somebody's got to see you. I think that was part of her story. Somebody saw her and just simply gave her some sanitary napkins or something, some things that, hygiene and everything like that. And it's just the simplest thing that we as people, that we just take a pause and understand that we don't know what people are going through. Sometimes
Absolutely.
I'm trying to tell myself that, if someone's harsh, if someone cuts you off, if somebody speaks, I'm trying to really get to the place where I say to myself, let me try and give that person grace. Even in my own family, with my brother, dealing with my mom, him being her caretaker. But anyway, I just really feel that we're at a place now where we just need to relax and stop throwing shade, stop being, because you might feel like you got room to throw some shade at somebody. But there's something that you know what it say? If you live in a glass house, don't throw no stones.
Yeah.
You
And
may feel that you
everybody
can
going through
afford
something.
everybody got
Yeah.
something they're going through. So don't
Yeah.
be feeling like you got room to look down your nose at somebody else just because they sin ain't yours. What's
Yeah.
your sin? What you dealing with? You got some skeletons in your closet too. So back to the generational trauma. So sometimes we know that these issues that have been hidden, the babies outside of wedlock, when you get pregnant down here, and that's the thing, they used to send you away. And
Mhm.
so maybe that creates a situation where you don't really know who the father is or who the mother is, or the father don't even know they had a child. The mother done got sent away before he even know that their encounter caused a baby, a pregnancy. And I know we're
Mhm.
going in different directions, but it all boils back down to what's going on in our lives and getting back to the root. There are
Mhm.
so many unraveling stories that are coming about, doing your DNA testing, your background. People are able to find their fathers. Two women that I know, because of our connection DNA testing, they were able to figure out who their fathers were. I think
Mm.
everybody needs to know who your daddy is. If nothing else, you got to know who your father and your mother is.
Yes.
Okay, because that's who you are. That's the essence of
Yes.
who you are. and
Yes.
all of that that comes along with that, so you can go along in life not really being authentically who you are, or being authentically who you are because of who you're connected with, but you're trying to be something you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to be something you're not, and but genetically who you really, really are is really coming out. That could be genius, that could be both negative and positive. If you're
Absolutely.
truly a genius because you got genius in your family line, I'm thinking of all of the musical genius that I discovered that's in my background, all of the acting genius I've discovered in my background, people who were on the streets, even being as I feel like when people are like street vendors, put it like that, and they're out there and they're doing their thing and they're handling their business, but they might not be do whatever they're selling may not be good for the community, but the skill set that they have
Yeah.
in running those businesses, let's take that skill set and bring it all together. So now I'm finding that maybe that's the reason why I love so many different types of things. My grandmother used to call me a peddler, because I used to like take products from door to door, salon to salon, barbershop to barbershop, and just sell those things. So you really have to know who your makeup, and I just want people to be able to slow down. I feel like I want to tell myself to do that right now and just discover yourself. When you come into an awareness, when you just take the time to really pause and bring yourself to a place that no matter what anybody says about me, I am going to be who I am authentically. I'm not going to judge other
Mhm.
people. And sometimes the way you were raised religiously, that judgment comes into play, and you wear that like a badge of honor that you get to judge other people because they don't serve God the way you do. And that's a whole nother show. Jehovah's Witnesses is what I don't knock them. I'm not judging them, but I understand that the culture of that whole community was, we are better than others because we do it this way or don't do it this way. So see, that further fuels that thing of trying to be accepted. And I'm talking about
Absolutely.
myself. My mother never embraced church. She never embraced the Jehovah's Witness, but she wanted me and my brother to know about God. But they would come to your house and bring you God. So she liked that part. They'd come to your house and sit in there for an hour and give you a home Bible study, and you was good. So my mom felt, oh, my kids are gonna learn about God because this person could come to my house every week and study the Bible. But the culture of that is, and this is true of most religions, now you have a reason to feel that you are different and you're better because, you know, you call them Jehovah and nobody else does. I was shocked when I heard a church person when I was coming through that ordeal. When I heard somebody from church say Jehovah, I almost wanted to
Yeah.
say, you can't call them Jehovah. Only Jehovah's Witnesses call them Jehovah.
Mm-mm.
you
That's the
know,
conditioning.
this the conditioning
That's the
is. You
conditioning.
you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And the enemy
So
was
all of
at you
this,
at an early age of wanting to be accepted.
eh,
That's what it sounds like. It just sounds like you fell into that, just looking for that mothering, looking for that fathering, looking for that validation. And it's not to say that nobody wasn't around you and loving you. This way it goes back to knowing love languages, knowing how to communicate with people on the way that they receive it as
mhm,
well. Children are like that. Um, and I just, hearing you, it's just like I can hear all of the growth and I can still hear where you're working through, where you're still being
absolutely.
kind to yourself. You're learning to give yourself more grace, like you mentioned earlier. And that's important. That's like the biggest part. It's not, people hear you and say, well, you just need to get over the past. It's not that. The past is woven through every fabric of who you are. And things that we go through in life, situations, circumstances will trigger thoughts and feelings and emotions. And a lot of times it's not even about what everybody else is saying to you. It is what that inner voice is saying to you that is so
Mhm,
toxic and so mean. And
mhm.
the work comes to silence the voice and silence the noise. And a lot of times we can't silence the voice because we won't deal with what is creating the voice,
Come
which is
on,
the
that's
past
right.
experiences.
And the nail, that's the nail, right?
That's the nail.
Mm-hmm.
That's the nail. And though that wound, that area may always be sensitive where
Mm-hmm.
the nail hurts, but it doesn't mean it has to be infected. It doesn't have to be an
Mm-hmm.
open wound. It may always be a little more sensitive because it's been wounded for so long, but it doesn't have to stay like that. Restoration can happen. And I think a lot of times, especially in our culture, what I don't think we talk enough about, and I want to talk more about this on the Heartline too, is working on yourself, getting better. It is very uncomfortable. You
Oh,
talked
yes.
earlier about the dark night of the soul. It feels like death because you are dying. The
Mm-hmm.
identity, the identity that you know is dead. It's dying. And you're
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
desperately trying to hold on to it because that's all you know. And it's so scary to see the world from a, what it's scary when you start to think, what does the world look like with me not being so mean and critical to myself? What does the
Mm-hmm.
world look like if I literally go through my day not worried about survival, money and love, who gonna love me, who not, but from a space of what do I need today? What does life look like when I operate from that space? And a lot of
That's
people
good.
say, well, you can do that, but I can't. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We're coming to a time, I believe that a lot of what we're experiencing is because we have been too complacent to get somebody else to do it. That video went
Mm-hmm.
viral with that older lady, and they asked her to do something. She was like, get somebody else to do it. But we have
Mm-hmm.
taken that on so much. We wanted somebody else to make us feel better about ourselves, somebody else to save us, somebody else to create what the things that we need. But God is like, no, I have put these gifts and treasures in this earthen vessel. That is
Come
you.
on.
Now I
That is.
need you to produce. I've
Mm.
sown the seed. I need you to produce the fruit.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And that's what we're doing. That's where we are right now. And I just want to commend you because the work is never done. As long as you I learned the story and I got to go back and look into it, but it's this lady and I can't remember if she's still living or not, but it was just this story about this like world renowned. She does some type of artwork, but she didn't start learning it until she was 80 and then
Mm.
became a master at it.
Wow.
So she started at 80 because she was getting older and didn't want to get stiff and stuck because that's what people do. They get an age, they get a circumstance, they look at everybody else and they say, oh, okay, I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's where the misery comes in.
That's
I
right.
feel like
That's
that's where we
exactly.
started as young women. We looked around. Okay, this is what everybody's doing. This what my mama doing. This what my daddy doing. This what the people around me doing. I guess this is what I'm supposed to do, and it's not.
Mm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
I like to listen to the Mel Robbins podcast, and she had a I think he's a psychotherapist on there, Dr. Gabor Mate. I encourage you if you ever see something with him, listen to him.
In the
Um,
realm of hungry ghosts.
so
I
you know
think
who
that's
I'm
the name of
talking
his.
about? Okay,
Yes. Yes.
so he was saying and it might have been him or they were quoting somebody, but talking about like your nature versus nurture. And you have generations of genetic experience inside of you. If they could
Mm-hmm.
prove that the Holocaust survivors passed down trauma in their DNA, then we know everybody else passing down trauma. And he talked about that. He said trauma is passed on in utero from a mother
Mm.
to a child. And it's not to blame the mother, but
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
what you're experiencing
Mm-hmm.
your child in you is going to experience. There's no detaching. There's no disconnecting
Wow.
from that.
Wow.
And so what he
So
was
there's
saying,
shame,
all
right?
of
Or
it,
embarrassment for
all of
being
it,
pregnant, maybe out of
every
wedlock, or somebody's
single
husband or
thing,
something like that is
every
there.
single
Yeah.
thing. So then when
Mhm.
a child can never ever think of a time in their life that they didn't feel rejection or didn't feel
Mhm.
abandonment, a lot of times they didn't have it because it was since utero. But that's still
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
who you are. That's
Right,
your
right, right.
very existence and being tainted by the environment that your mother is in. So when people say that's just who I am, I was born like this, really? You might have been born like that, but we still can't guarantee that's who you are. This is who you are as a product of that environment. what happens when you put yourself in a different environment that's more conducive to your healing, your growth, and your thriving. And what
Like,
happens,
yeah,
many of us never find ourselves in those environments, so we think it can't happen for us. But we don't find
mm,
ourselves in those
mm,
environments because we're so afraid of the change, the new identity, the I have to confront
yeah.
me. I was just
Hmm,
talking to
hmm,
Kevin last night about how um, doing hard work exposed even helped me understand the rift I had with my mother. And I told her one day after I'd done
hmm,
some breathing work and had my quiet time and I'd done some journaling, and the Holy Spirit revealed to me that I always felt like my mother was jealous of me. And
hmm,
she was
hmm,
like, I was never jealous of you. And I said, well, we agree to disagree. I know what I felt. But what the Lord made more clear to me is I don't know if jealousy is the right word, but I got the parents that she wanted growing up as a child. They were raising me as my grandparents, but
hmm, hmm.
that dynamic, my grandfather wasn't beating up or arguing or fighting, being abusive to my grandmother when I was there. He was like that when they were there. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
this, my daughter, I'm seeing my parents. It's like when older children see their parents and they always like, you nice to the baby child, but you didn't treat us like that. You hear that all the time.
All the time. That's right. You're right.
But like he the and it's like and with me working through, God told me all of this before I heard the scientists telling me these things. I
That's right.
knew these
Yep.
things. I was telling y'all, we this stuff is
Hmm, hmm,
happening, and I was impacted by that rejection in my mother's womb when she found out she was pregnant for a married man, and her family
that's right.
told members told her to get an abortion. Not all of them,
Hmm,
but some critical ones, and so that rejection was there, and that's not who I was designed to be, but what he said was genetics is like the gun. Environment is what can or cannot pull the trigger. So the potential is
mm,
there. That's why one child love to learn, one child you want to burn.
hmm, hmm. Wow. Well, and it's so critical that you even in there's a freedom in even saying that. And
Yes.
I recognize when I heard you say that just now that your mother was pregnant for a married man and some critical people close to her was encouraging her to have an abortion. And so to be able to get to the freedom to be able to say that without thinking I am going to hurt my mother. I'm still there. Now, she herself, she's even said to me that, you know, this is what I dealt with, why I always wanted to be involved with a married man. And I think that in that there was some degree of insecurity in her for recognizing that about herself. That was a self recognition that she came to, whether she got to the real bottom of why it was she was with an unavailable person, someone unavailable always. Why is it that you're always wanting to be with an unavailable person that you can only be with every now and then? Somebody that's, not fully able to give you their heart, someone that's not really fully able to do for you what you deserve without being hidden, without being, like a secret. So there is something in that because there's so many stories like ours, right? But until the women get to the place where they have the courage to say it, even if they don't say it on a platform, on a public platform. But if you are still having trouble acknowledging that, you know what I'm saying? Some people are even in denial.
Oh, there are
Oh,
a
they
lot of
wasn't
them.
married. They wasn't married.
Or
We
she
mean that
didn't know.
she ain't know he, so we continuously sabotage ourselves when we get to the place where we are faced with either the truth or not to tell the truth. And you are going to be, what did Yeshua, I like to call him Yeshua, the Hebrew Messiah
That's
said,
his name.
yeah,
That's his
Yeshua, the
name.
Hebrew Messiah said that the truth is going to do what?
Set you free.
That's what's going to make you free. And so, because if you don't say it, people around you are saying it. It's always a domino effect, right? When people know your history and people know the truth about it, And I think one of the reasons why, when even when we look at, to shift a gear a minute, when we look at situations of child molestation within the family dynamic, if you know that that's that perverted uncle, that perverted first cousin, or the mother's boyfriend, even the father, you
Yeah.
got those horrific cases.
And the
The fear
mother
that
and the
causes,
auntie
and
and
the
the
mother too,
cousin, because
the
see, a
mother and
lot
auntie.
of
Thank
times
you,
we put it
thank
all
you,
on the
thank
men.
you.
And
The
I have
men,
been
and
having
you are right.
conversations with a lot of men who babysitter molested
Mm,
them, and their big cousin, the female big cousin, did this to them. And we always zero in on the men being predators. Women are predators as well. And I
mm.
want to
Women
acknowledge
are
that
predators too.
women are
That's
predators
another
too.
show too. But and you know what I was gonna say to that, and that's the fear of the person abused. They don't want to say anything because this person might be even a pastor, a reverend in the church. So you don't want to say anything because people look at him and hold them in such high esteem. Or the woman could be a woman pastor. She could have a high position, hold a high place in society. And the child, now, if you say that, oh, you fast, like you said earlier, or if it's an uncle or a trusted loved a brother that's loved or a cousin. My brother wouldn't do that. My sister wouldn't do that. So now you got to fight through this. So that's why a lot of people who are abused, a lot of young people who are abused, they hide that away. They hide that away because they're afraid of saying it because they know that the person who is there, the person that has done that to them is somebody that the other members of the family look up to. So
Yeah.
that's what causes people to be silent. And maybe you don't say anything your whole life.
Yeah.
And you know, you get to where you in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, and now people are like, oh, well, why are you saying something now?
Because
You
I
know,
can't sleep at night. And I got an
okay,
ulcer. And I have an
okay,
aneurysm. And I'm dealing with a sickness and a disease. All
come
because of the
on.
inflammation that's caused from the stress and me not being able to tell the truth to protect your feelings. I think that what we have to know, and even with what you were saying about your mom, what changed my mom and I relationship was my candidness about what we were going through.
Mm,
And it wasn't that I'm so bad and I could just tell people, because no, that really wasn't the case. I struggled with confrontation. I was very much one of those people that just let you get away with it until I can't take it no more. And now I'm blowing up and now you want to know what's wrong with me. That was
yeah,
definitely my MO. But I
yeah, that
realized that that was not going to serve me and it was not going to allow me to have a good relationship with my children.
that's good.
That's really what
Woo.
it boiled down to. I
Yes.
was gonna go through the same cycle with my children if I continued to be like that. So I had to start to tell the truth. And one of the first things I realized was I could no longer operate in that toxic codependent relationship that I had with my mother. Because though this is a lot of people issue, you can't grow and heal because y'all been surviving together for so long. And when you outgrow that toxicness, now you got to deal with, can I survive without this person in this capacity? Will I
Mm,
make it if I set this boundary? And people like to see boundaries as building walls. And I just heard Brene Brown say this, and I thought it was, I used to say a boundary isn't a wall, it's putting up a fence with a gate that you can come in and out. But it's just, let's be clear about where we stand. Let's be
mhm,
clear about what I need versus what you need, what I don't want, what I do want, and you could take it or leave it, but this is
mhm.
just where I stand. There's nothing wrong with that. But we've
Yes.
been villainized to think that is something wrong with saying that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like doing that. I prefer not to listen to that or go there or eat this or be around these people. And that's
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Mm,
I
mhm, mhm,
also can't expect other people to have those same feelings and go along and follow me either. I have to have the autonomy to say, look, this is where I am. This is where I stand. And this is
mhm.
why you telling the truth about your experience with your mother, whether it what it did for my mother was at first she was angry. You remember how mommy used to act sometimes. You could feel the energy. But like she said, it wasn't until after we were off the radio, the book had come out. That fall, the book came out on her birthday, May 30th, 2018. And
Mhm,
that September, we had a storm,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And
Right.
then when the storm came, everybody was in the house. And so she was like, well, I'll read the book because I'm in the house. I might as well read the book. She had just gotten her copy and was reading a book, and she called me crying and was like, I get it now. I
Mm,
thought, she said, I read this book, bracing myself, expecting you to just be bad mouthing me and talking about me. She said, but actually, I get it. She said, all I heard was a woman who's a daughter just expressing, and she said, I could relate. I didn't know I felt that way about my mother until I
mm.
read the book. And so
Wow,
it
Ashley.
shifted, it shifted.
Mm,
I didn't feel like you were attacking me anymore. You helped me
mhm.
be able to actually deal with some unresolved things I had with mama. This 2018, my grandmother died in 2009. So people think like it never leaves you. So there was a lot of work done around that. My mother had to talk about how as amazing as my grandmother is and was, she didn't always get what she needed from her mother. She didn't
Mm.
always feel seen and heard in the house. Well, of course, you eight of nine children. That makes a lot of sense. But what is the problem is when you don't feel like you can express it and be honest about it, then now you live your life and people call you a bully and people feel like you're
Yes.
overbearing and people
Mhm.
feel like sometimes you're too much, but really they don't know that's coming from an insecure place where you don't feel seen. You don't feel heard. So
That's
this
right.
is what you do. And so I'm like, I get that, but that's too much for me. Now that
Mm,
I'm a wife and a mother, I can't cater to you like that. You chose to be single. You don't have no man. You live in this lifestyle that you live in, and you want me to cater to you because you're lonely. No, ma'am. I can't do that. You're not number one on the
mhm,
priority list, and I love you and your mother, my mother, and I'm honoring you. But I got a myself and a God to serve. I got a husband. I got kids, and then come you.
mm. Ooh,
That's
ooh.
the order that God set up.
That's the order that God set up. That's the order.
And if
That's the
that hurt
order.
your feelings, that's your problem. Book your therapy appointment and talk about why that's a
Mhm.
problem. But see, we
Yes.
have too much toxic codependency back to generations of struggling and getting by. So it's so much intertwined in that, on top of trying to tell people you love and you're surviving with how much the conversations hurt. And
Mm.
I can no
Mhm.
longer, I don't want to do this. I don't interact like that. Like I just had to tell somebody, they were like, we don't talk as much as we used to. And I had to tell them straight up, I don't have time for surface relationships. I mean, I can do that professionally, and that's fine. But the people that going to be getting access to me, on a personal level, we got to go deep or we can't go at all. Because, see, the life that I live, I need a anchored in a strong foundation. That means I'm emotionally available. You're emotionally available. We're there for each other in various capacities. I don't want all this, how they say, pussyfooting around and tiptoeing around. If I
Mhm.
got to do all of that, we can't hang out.
We can't hang. We can't hang,
And that's
sis.
why I don't hang with a lot of people.
Right.
Because I need people who can check me, I can check them. They can celebrate me, I can celebrate them. I can love on them, they can love on me. And we can give each other space. And if I don't answer and don't text back, you ain't talk about, are you mad at me or is she acting funny? Because if you really know me, you know you need to call me back. You need to text me back.
Oh, Eddie, God, today I'm serious.
And I don't have the energy to be
No, I
explaining
don't
all
have
this.
the energy for that. And and it's so much what you're saying is just really knocking the ball out the park, as they say. Superficial, fake, and just can't really. No, I can't do that because now what you discover is, and I heard you say something about with your mom, maybe feeling a jealousy for you
Yeah.
because you have people that really don't know. They're really trying to process you, right? And they feel like you're too much, and they that's that fake and superficial. And but you just said it the other day, we cannot afford to dim who we are because God has called you to such a elevated place to be the light. Once the dust settles and the smoke clear, you got to be the light still standing there. But you cannot be, you have to be able to recharge. You have to set your priorities. You cannot worry about people who are still in a place emotionally where they're only thinking about themselves and not understanding that you have to, and you have the right to have that assertion that I don't have time for that. I don't have that energy for that. And if you still want to be my friend and I don't answer, please don't get. I lost a whole friendship with a young lady that said that to me one time. She said, you weren't there for me. And
Well,
I was going through with a
wasn't a
husband
real
that,
friendship.
okay, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget her saying that to me. I don't want to be your friend anymore because when I call so and so, she's always there for me. And I thought, is this really? Am I really hearing this? And I said to myself, I says, and I can remember getting up, me and my husband at the time, getting up out of our bed 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, where her husband was threatening her. And I said, babe, come on, we gotta go. And you mean to tell me that now you're gonna say to me that I wasn't there for you because I didn't continue that codependent holding you by the hand, and instead of you either letting him go or getting your own therapy, whatever you needed to do, I
Yeah,
could not continue to put
yeah,
myself in harm's way.
no. And you don't have to explain that. See, that's the other part. You don't, we adults. But what it sounded like was you had an adult throwing a temper tantrum.
Mm,
And I don't let little kids control me with temper tantrums. So I'm definitely not about to do this with you. And it's okay. I
mm,
had someone get really upset with me because of an unexpressed expectation. And I was proud of myself because usually I would take it personal and be like, oh my God, like, I don't want you to be. And in my head, I was like,
mm,
I told her, I said, you did not express that to me. So
mm.
I went with what I understood. And that was that. You upset, maybe never talk to me again. That's fine. If I need to go back and apologize that the relationship I have with the Holy Spirit, he let me know.
Mhm.
I'll know to get that right. Maybe we just need some time or not. Maybe that was it.
Maybe that was supposed to be the closed door.
Maybe that was
Absolutely.
and I
Mhm.
think that that's the case. I think that we got to be okay with things changing. It's just like the seasons. I see myself with certain outfits and clothes on. I'm like, I don't even know that's cute. I don't know where that dress went. It was for that time and that season. I probably
Yes.
can't even fit it now. Right? So
Yes.
it's like being okay with where you are. Like, and I'm gonna use this and I didn't even realize when we get on here, we just start talking. We almost had 2 hours. But I'm gonna say this and I really wanna invite you back to
Okay.
definitely be a guest again. And I'm gonna let you before we close out, kind of let the people know where they can find you and follow you and learn more about everything with Princess LJ Lori Johnson.
Mhm.
Um
Okay.
but I think that we have to be okay with where we are in this moment. And I'm gonna
Yes.
use
Absolutely.
myself as an example, but I feel like in I feel like this kind of summarizes a lot of what we're talking about. Like me personally, so since the pandemic, I've gained about 20 pounds. And I was at the weight that I wanted to be back then, but I had all these critical things about myself
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
So now 20 pounds ahead. And
Hmm.
at one point, I was like beating myself up about it. My weight been up and down or whatever. But there are some things that I'm having to work on. Um, Eating right, exercise, all of that. But there are some stressors that I've been trying to manage that I am working on eliminating because that's the problem. We try to manage stress and not eliminate it. And stress
Not a little.
causes
Mhm.
inflammations and makes us sick.
That's
Um, but the thing about it is, maybe I instead of forcing myself to fit in something that don't fit, when I notice my clothes start getting tight. Okay, well, let me go get me some clothes that fit so I can feel comfortable instead of every time I get dressed beating myself up about being fat or gaining weight.
I hear you. I understand.
And I feel like that's where we are in life. And guess what? I'm already giving away some of the bigger clothes that I bought because they're too big, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I would prefer to be comfortable in the size that fits me in this
Yeah.
season and then
Mm.
down the line when need smaller clothes I can get those, but I don't need to be stuck in the past and trying to force myself to fit in the things that no longer fit or are no longer are comfortable
That's good.
just because
That's
I
good.
don't want to deal with where I am right now. And that's what we're doing. A lot of us are in stale relationships. A lot of us are in stale
Mm.
business deals, businesses. We're in stale churches. We're in
Mhm.
stale
Mhm.
communities. We're in
Mhm.
a stale mindset and
Mindset.
mentality.
Mm.
It's
That's
outdated,
outdated.
it's
Yeah.
limited, it's
Hmm.
impoverished, and we trying to force ourselves into that. And I'm just encouraging you to just embrace where you are. It
Okay.
does not
Yes.
mean it's like forgiveness. It does not mean that you're okay with what happened, but it
Mhm.
means that you're going to let yourself off the hook so you can heal and move past it and improve and go forward so that
Yes.
you're no longer stuck there.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
so just try something else on that fits. Embrace the size that you're in.
I
The
love it.
new mindset, the new relationships. They cut you off, let them.
Hmm.
They walked
Hmm.
away, let them go. If you did something wrong, apologize and still let
Hmm.
them because your apology does not equate reconciliation, but you do want peace of mind. But let's
Yes.
continue to heal. That's the biggest
Hmm.
thing because why? Because we
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
worthy, right?
We are worthy.
We are worthy.
Absolutely.
So let the
Mhm.
people know where they can find you and connect with you and hear more about beautiful, beautiful Lori L.J. Johnson.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Just I want to just really, really emphasize how I'm just really so grateful for our relationship, for our friendship, that you consider me a work mom, and that means so much to you, to me, in so many words that I cannot probably properly express, even though I like to talk. But I thank you for your embrace of who I am and seeing me. You have seen me throughout these years, and you're just real with me, and I always appreciate that. So I encourage people, get with somebody that you can be real with. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's not Addie and I, as far as your tribe is concerned, you probably heard Addie give reference to a lot of people who are out here helping people to do the work. The
Yeah.
Brene Browns, the Gabor Mate.
Yeah.
There's so many others. People that we
Jason
can name that.
Wilson, Mel
Yes.
Robbins. Yeah.
Uh-huh. All of
Yeah.
those people, even our sister Iyanla, she
Iyanla,
certainly has
I
gone
love
through
her.
her.
Yes.
Yeah, I love her, and she's gone through so many things. Jewel Diamond Taylor, remember Mama
Yes,
Jewel,
Doc
and we
Mama
had her
Jewel.
on the show one.
Yes. Yes. She's
Jewel Diamond
awesome.
Taylor,
Yes.
she's awesome and staying in the light, and she has daily affirmations and different ways. So what we're saying that you will hear a voice. Yeshua said, "My sheep hear my voice." Maybe the voice that you hear, you have to start listening to things that resonate with you. If you feel that these are voices that resonate with you and that they align with where you are, maybe even in your spiritual journey, get off the religious track. Let's do that. Let's get off that religious track, showing up just because you got to check off a box that I've gone to church. Let's get out of that, because you come out of there sometimes just as broken, as hurt as you are when you went in there, because you're not dealing with
Absolutely.
the issues. You're not dealing with the issues, the deep issues. And before I get too deep into that, I just wanted to say that because I just thank you, because we are inviting you into our tribe. We
Yes.
invite you into our space. We are inviting you because of this I Am Worthy movement that my business partner, Spencer Iverson, has started. We want to help you to glow from the inside out. First of all, that's where it matters the most. From the inside out, getting your inner glow. And then by our skincare products that are really absolutely amazing, formulated with the best products. Some products that are used in skincare products here in the United States are banned in other countries, literally banned, because they cause all kinds of problems. Stories for another day. So we represent the best because you deserve the best. That's the movement. I am worthy. And when you've earned all of the funds that you want and you're ready to take trips, why not do it at the most deeply discounted rates that you possibly can? We've got absolute access to all of the discounts that you would imagine on pricing, on packaging, things like that. So connect with me. You'll learn all of this, because I know everything is not for everybody, but there is something for everyone. And if it's not something that I can provide, I will certainly point you in the right direction on where you can get it. And I may not benefit from it whatsoever, but I'm always about the principle of reciprocity. There is a mutual benefit. But it's important to get to know each other first. And I think that we're going to do more of this so that we can get to know, you can get to know Addie, you can get to know myself. And at some points, we're
Yes.
going to bring on other guests that are speaking along the same lines as I am. And you will be able to glean from these people and to connect with these people and to know that it's not about what's going on in the White House, but who are you?
Yes.
Who are you ready to show up to be?
In
So
your
with
house.
that, in your
Yes.
house, isn't that great? So
Yes.
you can connect with me on all social media, Facebook, Instagram. I am, I'm really gonna try my hand at TikTok.
Hmm.
Somebody encouraged me today. You need to do TikTok. I'm gonna try my hand at TikTok, Instagram. So I'm on all of those platforms, and so I'm also on the radio, Heaven 100.1, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'm working on a podcast. Addie's helping me with that. And so I'm just excited about where I am in this phase in my stage of development. And so just thank you all. Thank you all the listeners, everyone who tuned in on today. So yeah, the heart coaching, we're doing this and this is gonna be something that I'm really looking forward to us doing even more of. So thank you so much again.
You are so welcome. What's your handle on social media so they can find you?
So I do have a Facebook page. If you search Lori L.J. Johnson, I will come up, but it will come up under my Igala name, which is Ufedoojo. Ufedoojo means the love of God in the Igala language, which is Nigerian. Okay, Agula stands for. It means he or she who remains will never go astray. And I chose those Igala names because I'm developing a tribe of people on Facebook who follow me from Kogi State, Nigeria, and that is a 5,000-year-old pre-colonial kingdom that we get excited about the Prince Harry and Meghan, but we as African descendant people, we have a kingdom we can look back to. It's 5,000 years old, and I have connected with them on social media, so it really helps them to embrace me even the more when I have that out there. I haven't officially changed it because I respect the name my mom gave me, Lori L.J. Johnson. That's what she didn't give me L.J., Lori Renee Johnson, but I embrace my culture because I believe that that's all a part of us learning about who we are and embracing as African American people, going back to our roots. Sankofa, that's a term in Africa that means go back and fetch it. So that's why I have that name on Facebook, Ufedoojo Agula. But it's also, you can find me there by searching Lori Johnson as well. And I'm on Instagram, Lori Johnson Boyd. I still have, that's one of the first accounts that I made. It had too many on there, so I didn't want to, and I've been married and divorced, and so that's why Boyd is there. I don't have any embarrassment about that. Moments with LJ is also one of my Instagram handles too. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I know Moments with LJ. I think you have that as a page on Facebook too. So you can find Lori Ufe Doja. Did I get that
Dojo.
right? Dojo,
Dojo.
Ufe Dojo. And you can look her up there using that search Lori L.J. Johnson or Moments with LJ, and either of those will direct you to her, or you can also connect with us. And what I'll do is in the description for this video, I'll put some of her handles on there so that you can connect with her as well. So I thank you so much for being here. And I thank you, Heart Tribe, for being here with us for season 4 of the Heartline with Adelai Brown. Remember, we are growing heart equity, personal, relational, and financial wealth that is cultivated through authentic living. Because I truly believe when you heal your heart, you transform your life, and that transformation transforms the world. I love y'all. Have a wonderful day.